This is another Carrie Stevens streamer. This is called the All Orange, and as the name implies, it's pretty much all orange. There's no tail on this. There is a tag of silver, which I'm kind of surprised because it's all orange. You would have thought that it would have been tied with gold, but anyway, it has a tag of silver Mylar tinsel on it, as well as a rib of silver tinsel, but it is an orange floss body and an orange throat. The wing is simply 6, meaning there's 3 hackles on one side, 3 hackles on the other side. So for a total of 6 hackles and a cheek of jungle cock. Very basic. It's a black head with an orange band on it. That's the all orange. I can start tying. I'm going to start the all orange with my hook in the vise. This is a Partridge CS5-9X streamer hook. I'm going to debarb that hook, and then I'm going to attach my thread. Because the all orange has an orange floss body, I'm going to go ahead and start with a white thread. This is a Danville 3.0 monocord in white. I'm going to lay down a layer of thread here. There is no tail on the all orange. It is just a tag and then the orange floss body and a rib. So I'm going to run my thread down to the end of the body and then tie in the tinsel for the tag and rib. So with my thread about 2/3 down the length of the hook shank here, I'm going to tie in the tinsel. I'm using a number 10 Danville silver and gold Mylar tinsel. It's a silver tag as well as rib, so I'm going to tie this in with the gold side facing out. Because we have no tail, I can attach the tinsel for the tag. Now I'm running my thread down to the end of the hook shank, just right before the barb. That'll put in my tag, bringing my thread back up to where I tied that in. I can put the floss in for the body. I'm using a Danville 4-strand Rayon in orange. Attach this to the hook, start running my thread up along the hook shank, binding that in, trying to keep nice, smooth touching turns. You can add a little bit of wax to the thread if you like. I only have that floss going about halfway up the body here. You could have it going the whole way up the body if you want. That makes certain that you have a nice smooth body and everything. I don't think what little bump there is from that floss as I'm tying this in and then wrapping the floss over it is pretty minute. So, but I suppose if I were tying this to be framed or displayed or something like that, I'd want to go ahead and have that all the way the length of the body, just to make it a little bit more presentable. So now with my thread all the way up the end of the body, I'm going to apply the floss for the body, and then I'll apply the tinsel for the tag and the rib. Generally not important how many wraps of that rib you have on these flies, as long as they are all just uniformly spread out. Trim away the excess, and I'm going to advance my white thread up behind the eye of the hook. Now I'm going to change over to a orange thread. I'm using a Danville 70 Denier in an orange color. This is a burnt orange, I think. The all orange has a black head with an orange band on it. But I don't want to darken up the orange, so I'm going to use orange as the foundation for the head and then put in 2 small black bands. Other than the wing, the only other thing to tie in here for this fly is some bucktail for an underbelly and the hackle for the throat. Because it is all orange, as the name implies, the bucktail is orange. Usually it's white in most of her flies. I think because of the nature of this one, went with the orange. So I've got some bucktail here. You cut out maybe about half a pencil, something like that, and then clean it out and get the real long ones out, and or you can realign some of those, get the short ones out, or the ones that stick out odd angles and such. I'm going to try and get some straight hairs here off of this so that most of your tips are even. They don't have to be perfectly even. You could put this in a hair stacker if you wanted to. When tying that in, you want to try and get some hair that is off up towards the tip of the bucktail, because the hairs up this way are not as thick, not as dense, so they don't compress and flare when you tie them in. But occasionally, even I find you get a nice looking bucktail, they still sometimes will compress on you and flare out a little bit. So try not to wrap these in too strong right here and end up getting those flared out. In terms of fishing the fly, I don't think it really matters, because I think as this is swinging in the water, all of this gets swept back and flows in the water. Now for the throat, I'm just going to use a Schlappen. This is just an orange Schlappen. That's all it calls for, is just an orange hackle. What I'm going to do, I'm going to tie in 3 small clumps of this, and I'm going to take a feather. I'm going to get all the fluff off of it. I'm just going to get some barbs out perpendicular to the rachis so that the tips are even. I'll peel those off, and I'm going to clump these together. I want the throat to go about halfway down the body. I'm going to tie those in. The purpose behind the 3 different clumps is to cover up any thread wraps that are exposed. Sometimes when you tie these flies, if you have some white thread exposed back here or something, you can use the next materials that you're tying in as you're moving forward towards getting the wings in to help cover that up. At least that's the theory behind it, and understanding as to why Carrie Stevens tied these with 3 different clumps, because see, that one's right on the side there and it would cover anything up. Also keep in mind that your wing is going to be tied in here, and it's pretty broad, so it tends to kind of cover up anything along the side as well. So I'm just trimming away any straggly barbs here. When you peel off these barbs, when you select a feather for the throat, the hackles, and the throat, you want to select one that has fairly long barbs. It's a lot easier to cut the waste out. When they start to get too short and you just got the little butt ends here, sometimes it gets, at least for me and my old eyes, it gets kind of tricky getting your scissors in there to peel those out. So when you're selecting a feather, you want to look for, longer barbs down here at the bottom that are easier to handle. But as you get up here and they're shorter and shorter, you can still tie them in. They just get to be a little bit fiddly. Now I'm just bunching the bucktail up here next to the hook shank so that I can kind of stroke those throat fibers down just a little bit. Now I'm going to wrap all this down, smooth it off, clean it up. We're tying in the wing. The wing's very straightforward on the all orange. As you would expect, it's all orange. Basically, 3 orange hackles and then a cheek of jungle cock. So that's all it is. Might be interesting to take this and put in some golden pheasant tippet or something on the side of that as a shoulder. I'm going to trim away the extra rachis there on that, and then tie these in. Now if this is the first time watching any of these videos that I've done on these Carrie Stevens flies, all of these wings are pre-made. So there's 2 different videos I have out there on how I actually select the hackles and the jungle cock, and these are all pre-made and glued together. I'm going to hold this up here. I want to make certain the tips are pretty even. Again, with these being pre-made, the tips and everything are all evened up. Everything is evened up ahead of time. So you should be able to just put them right up next to each other and they fit in just fine. And those do. Okay, so once again, I'm going to take my thread. I'm going to come down to the eye of the hook and I'm going to start forming the head. This is just building up the thread so it's all nice and smooth. At the same time, I want to cover up the butt ends here of those wings, any other material, and this is just to smooth it all off. I'll put a little bit of wax on my thread. Sometimes it has a tendency to slide on some of those materials. Once it looks like I've got all that covered up, I will put a little bit more wax on my thread. And I'll put in a whip finish. And trim away the orange thread. Now I'm going to take my black thread and put the black bands in. The black thread is just a 70 Denier Danville. I'm going to put some wax on here. I find that the wax definitely helps because it keeps the thread from sliding around. It keeps it in place, especially when you're trying to put in these specific bands of color. Attach my thread in the back end of the head here. And what I want to do is just divide the head into thirds. I'll have a black band in the back, an orange band in the center, and then a black band up front. You also want to make certain that you're not building this up too much. You don't want to have, kind of a rounded area here on the bands and, less thick on the orange. You want to make it look like it's all the same. A little more wax on my thread. I'll do a whip finish to secure the black in the rear portion of the head. And now I will reattach it for the front band. Take your time with this step, no rush. I also find that the wax very much helps in this instance because you're not doing a big whip finish. It's not like 8, 9, 10 turns on the whip finish. It's usually about 3 or 4. And sometimes in some videos that I've done, you've even seen I've left it in where the thread pops out from under the last few wraps of that whip finish, which is no big deal. There's ways you can deal with that, but the thread helps keep that from happening, so it's all nice and smooth and clean. Attaching the black thread up front, I'll advance this back so that front portion is about 1/3 of the head space. And then make certain I've got it all covered up here. I'll put some thread on, I'll put some wax on my thread, thread on my wax. And we'll whip finish, trim away the thread, and then some head cement. Head cement I use is called Fly Tight, and it is an alcohol-based head cement. This Bucktail seems to want to flare a lot more. Anyway, it's an alcohol base. It's kind of thin, so it will soak down into those thread wraps, securing it very well. Then I'll be coming back and putting on a couple layers of a clear lacquer. And that's not so much to gloss up the head as it is to protect the thread wraps so that the fly would last a little bit longer while you're fishing it. So that's the all orange, just a simple, very basic. If you do a lot of these featherwing streamer patterns, they're very, very much like this. Some have a tail, some don't. Some have peacock curl in the wing, some don't. But that is one that is all orange. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.